Hello guys, your crazy coach lady Amanda Trombley, and I am so excited to bring you guys another little special edition of a topic on sexuality. Again, quick intro if you don't know me. Amanda Trombley, better known as your crazy coach lady. Like I said, I am owner, founder of Ignite Trombley Coaching, and I work with women to create mental wealth and emotional evolution, breaking through to their innermost self of complete and total freedom. So today our topics for this video is going to be all about our sexual identity and how we bring that forward through our confidence and embodiment. So I want to start off by asking you guys a couple questions. And the first question that I want to ask you is, do you actually recognize yourself, woman, as a sexual creature? How about this question? Do you feel confident in your sexual nature or your sexual identity? And the last question that I have for you is, has your sexual energy led you to believe in and live in your most highest goddess nature? Now, we have a beautiful group of women here who, through talking to, have really discovered that a huge part of the problem here with our sexual nature is our connection to body itself. And having kids, becoming a mother, moving into a new phase of our lives, dealing with the traumas and the stress and the changes in our body really disconnects ourselves from the love, the passion, and the centeredness that we should have in our body naturally. And we oftentimes bring this to the central focus of it was after I had kids or after I started a new career or after I got overwhelmed or whatever the, final breaking point was for us to admit that I'm completely unhappy in my body. I'm completely unhappy and lack self-esteem in my confidence. And we usually put this idea that it happened at this point. But when we want to be completely and totally honest with ourselves, we have to realize that it didn't center from one certain experience in our life. It didn't happen when we became a mom. What happened is that we have a lifetime of experience of not owning in and honing in and owning our truest potential. We have a lifetime of experience of not loving ourselves fully. We have a lifetime of experience of putting ourselves before another person, of talking badly about our bodies, of being insecure and lacking self-esteem in who we truly are. We have a lifetime of experience of not owning up and recognizing and living in that fierce goddess nature that is naturally yourself. Now, it is compounded when we have children. It is compounded when we gain weight. It is compounded when we are feeling some sort of identity crisis in ourselves. Absolutely. But if we had been truly connected and passionate within, our appearance changing would not deplete us entirely. Losing some time to our children or our spouses would not deplete us entirely. And so we have to begin to be honest enough with ourselves to say that this isn't a problem that started when, but this is a problem that I've been having for many, many years, that I haven't given myself the credit or the time to ever truly focus on what I need as a woman, what I desire as a woman, who I am as a woman, and just how incredibly fierce and powerful I actually am. So over the last several years, it's been really super cool for me to understand that, hear me, I am woman, hear me roar type of experience for myself. Because growing up the way that I did, although the woman was, not the money maker in the household, but the head of the household as far as keeping everything in check and making sure the kids were taken care of and so on and so forth, I did experience a really great positive love for women and appreciation of women. But I never applied that to myself independently. I never took all of the experience that I had and opened up to this idea of we are not just mothers, we are not just friends, we are not just this, but we are creative in our mind, body, and soul, and we are really fierce women. And so I've come to this realization that not with just me, but when in each and every one of you guys is this potential to unleash a goddess self deep within, to release that innermost self that is fierce, powerful, confident, and to embody her all the time and to claim her as your new identity. And so in this video, I want to give you guys some steps, some ways to work out the issues that you're having with yourself and take some steps to come to that person. But since we're talking about here in this pure romance group, and it's all about sex and fun, pleasure and play, we're going to tie this directly to your sexual identity. Not necessarily your identity as a mother or as a woman, as a spouse, as a homemaker, as a career woman, but how your confidence and how your embodiment is directly related to your lack of or sexual identity itself. So here's the deal. We all have a natural identity, and our sexual nature of that identity is only a portion that goes into it. We all have so many other components to our lives, and there's so much more work we can do here. But again, focusing in on this topic of sexual nature, we want to bring this to the light. But so along with our sexual nature, our sexual identity, our identity is based off of our passions, our purpose, our core values, our belief systems, how disciplined or dedicated we are to growing or changing our lives, so on and so forth. But basically, our identity as a whole is built off of our life model, or the way that we are currently showing up and living our lives. And our sexual identity is a gigantic part of that piece. So to pretend that our sexual identity is separate from our passions, from our purpose, from the way that we see ourselves, from the way that we interact with the world is absolutely asinine. To pretend that these are not correlated together is just not true, and we can't keep lying to ourselves anymore. We have to begin to open our minds up to realize that our passions are just as aligned with how we present ourselves confidently or lack of sexually and in nature, as is the way we show up for our children, as is the way we show up for our home and our spouse. They are all directly aligned, because your passion isn't just a passion for serving or teaching. It isn't just a passion for your children. Your passion is whatever yours is, to feel good, to be confident, to, live out, to make money, to serve others. And underneath all of those hidden elements are all your core beliefs, your values, and your life model. And so your sexual identity, your sexual nature, your belief in yourself as a sexual creature is directly related to your passions. And as is the same for your purpose, for your core values, for your beliefs, for all of the little pieces of your life. They're completely intertwined and connected. And so it's time to take a step away from living in this model that we believe that we can continue to shun this side out, we can continue to numb away this side, and begin to recognize that this is a very important side of us that we can actually manifest through and become who we want to be by creating some really fun things in our lives. So we learned in our last video how this is connected, and we learned how our sexual identity is, really runs through and through our skin, and how we can use this to manifest negatively in our lives, creating that lack of energy, that depression, the lethargy, the overwhelm, the body issues, the this, and this. And we also spoke about how we can use this energy to manifest properly in our lives, increasing more income revenue, increasing our confidence, giving us the power, the strength, the energy to carry through the next day. So today we're going to get a lot more nitty-gritty on actually integrating this mess, untangling this mess that we've made for ourselves, and integrating some really cool steps, simple steps, lovely steps that you might find weird, you might be uncomfortable with, but they're so super duper simple that you just cannot stand away and you cannot step away and pretend to keep moving away from this. Because when you realize how simple emotional evolution is, when you realize how simple it is to create mental wealth, you can't not. And there's really no funner way to do it than to begin with your sexual identity, regardless of any trauma that you've experienced. So let me start by saying this. Your sexual identity doesn't have to be this flashy, flamboyant kind. For me, it is. But for you, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't need to be loud and proud. It doesn't need to be represented in the way that you dress or the way that you flaunt. It doesn't need to be kinky and dark. It doesn't have to be that one way. We look at it societally, we look at the people that dress the way, the people that do their makeup the way, the people that are very forward about their body, about their sexual attitudes, and you see that as a sexual energy in itself, and you either are really turned on by that or you're really turned away by that. So I want to start by saying it doesn't have to be that to be good and pure and perfect for you. It only needs to be one thing to begin to direct your life, to begin to manifest the desires that you have. And that is this. The only thing that you need to encompass in your sexual energy for it to be a perfect match for you is confidence. You only need to be secure in the confidence that you are living the way that you desire to live. So to get into this a little bit about the differences between the dark and the softer and so on and so forth, we have masculine energy and we have feminine energy. And you may be one or you may be the other, or you may be a combination of both depending on the moon cycles, your period cycles, your needs for the day, your emotional evolution, so on and so forth. It's perfectly acceptable to be either or a combination of both. The problem that we face here is that we may feel like we're supposed to be one, but we're living in another, or we may feel like we want to be one and we're living in another, or we're living in one to protect ourselves from the reality of the needs that we have in the other. So your feminine energy, when it comes to it, is more of a soft and subtle bit of energy, a bit more gentle, a bit more endearing. It focuses on the needs of others over the lust and power of your soul or your desires. But there's a huge misconception when it comes to this feminine energy. We often look at feminine energy as meek, mild, shy, insecure, etc. But our feminine sexual energy is just as fierce and power as the masculine side. When we think about feminine energy, we commonly think about this loving, nurturing thing. And when we relate feminine energy to our sexual identity, our minds seem to go in the same avenue, that it's more of a vanilla, soft type of approach to feminine energy or to sexual identity. But I want you to just for a second think about what the feminine herself can do. I mean, the feminine can create a human being, the female can create a human being inside their body and has everything inside of her to create, flourish, and give life to this. The female's body creates, it pushes out, it takes care of itself fully through labor and delivery, and then produces the life milk to sustain the child further and further. That is just one example of how the feminine energy is amazing and just as fierce as the masculine. Women have been shown time and time again to be able to lift a car off their child, or to be able to have the tenacity to run in a burning building to save their child. The feminine energy is far from weak. It just represents itself a little bit differently. And so if you are somebody that is living in the feminine energy, and you are somebody that has that sexual identity that leans more to that direction, stop giving into the shame that you're not what the world wants to be, or that you're not enough for your partner, for yourself, for your children, for whatever. Because you are. The feminine energy is fierce and powerful, and it's about time that you begin to recognize just what a goddess creature you truly are. So the masculine energy is more of that loud, proud, flamboyant, and flashy sexual energy, or energy itself, but in this case, sexual energy. It may be more dominating. It may be what we would typically think to recognize as kinky or dominant. or what a lot of people, if this is something that turns you off, would look at as worldly or like flesh sins. But again, this is such a gigantic misconception here. The idea that this masculine energy must be one to take control or dominate or have some sort of kink or power attached to it is just as incorrect as calling the feminine energy vanilla. It is about a different sense of power. It's about a different sense of control, but it's no more better than, it's no more kinkier than, it's completely unique to itself, but it's no more proud or powerful than the feminine energy itself. And so we either live one way or the other when it comes to our sexual identity here, or we might mix it up a little bit of both. But and I encourage you to look on your own or have a conversation with me a little bit deeper about what these elements really mean for you and how they show up in your life, because if they're showing up in your sexual identity, they're showing up in so many other areas of your life. How you run your business, how you parent your kids, how you speak to your spouse, how you interact with the world. And so our feminine energy or our masculine energy carries through to every piece of our lives. But here's the biggest problem with it. The problem isn't that you're living in one or you're living in the other. The problem is that you're not attached to what you're living in, and you're not confident as you unintentionally create systems around this. Whatever you feel and whatever you're living in currently is okay and natural if you live it with total confidence. But if you operate in your feminine energy and you desire the masculine energy, then it's time to take a shift. And vice versa. If you're living in your masculine energy because you're covering up insecurity, because you're covering up over a blanket of power and control, and what you really desire is that feminine energy, then it's time to make a shift. And if you're happy your way, but lacking the confidence to actually live in it, which is you have these desires, you have these passions, you have these goals, you have these things that you want to do, these pieces of yourself that you want to create in your life and in your sexual identity, but you're too stinking scared to do it, then it's time that you need to begin with some simpler steps so you can build the confidence to get there, because ultimately, above everything else, that's what you're lacking here, is the confidence to move ahead. So, and this is because our sexual identity is all about confidence. Our identity as a human being is all about, I'm sorry, this bang, it just grew like an inch overnight, and so now it's not sitting anywhere perfectly. It's driving me crazy. Our identity as a whole is all about confidence, and our identity or our sexual identity relates to that so stinking much. So when we are meek and mild, we can still be fierce and confident. Again, that feminine energy doesn't have to mean you're shut down, you're vanilla, you're locked out, You can still be that milder version of yourself, but still show up with complete fierce and confident power for yourself. We can be loud and crazy without covering up insecurities or pretending to be somebody we're not. We can show up in that energy and be confident and powerful. And we can be a mix of the two and still live to our core beliefs and our desires. The trick isn't to find your niche and stick with it. It's to embrace your truest desires and begin to actually live in them by finding your confidence in them, realigning them to you, and figuring out if what you desire is truly what you desire, or if it's not because you're stuck in an old paradigm. So, if you aren't living day to day in confidence, your sexual mask is just that. It's just a mask. And this goes for everything. If you are not living day to day with confidence in your business and confidence with your parenting, but you're showing up, you're living in a mask, and it's time to rip that mask off, take off the Band-Aid, and get nitty-gritty to do some work on it. When we go even deeper to this, and we, have sexual relations with a partner with our mask on, when we have sexual relations with ourselves with a mask on, we are adding trauma experiences to our body. Now what we are experiencing, what we are touching out and bringing into our bodies is built up in a false reality, which is trapping our memories in a different state of reality than we want to live in. And it's really, really becoming a traumatic experience to our mind and body as we continue to move about our lives and actually pull this energy inside our body with a mask on. And so we have to begin to be honest with ourselves and say, there is no more time to continue to re-traumatize myself. I have to begin to take this mask off, slowly but surely. So this is where embodiment comes in. When we take the mask off, we have to begin to implement certain steps into our lives that allows us to live confidently without the mask on. And the more that we do these things, the more that we practice living this way, the more actions we take, the easier it becomes to leave the mask at the bedside table and eventually throw it in the trash. And the more confident we naturally become, and the more confident we become, the more open-minded and aware we become of living in our highest sense of self, as well as understanding that we are so more than we ever thought possible. When we begin to take these small steps, we open up to this idea that we are goddesses. We are powerful, we are fierce, and we can do so much with ourselves. And so when we take off this mask and we begin to do small steps, we start healing the scars and we start unleashing freedom for our lives. And we begin to explore the power. And ultimately, what's so simple here is as we begin to embody certain things just by actions, we step into total alignment of embodiment itself with our highest self. So I'm going to give you 10 ways that you can take off this mask, step into the sexual identity that is natural for you, that feels absolutely great, create the confidence, build up your anxiety, or your identity, and create the embodiment of living for your goddess self, who is a powerful, confident, sexual creature. So number one, you gotta love yourself. You absolutely have to start loving yourself. And the most simplest way to begin to love yourself is by affirmations. And I know that this sounds so ridiculously simple, but it is so stinking important to be telling yourself how wonderful you are on a daily basis. Because the reality situation is you're probably not hearing it a lot. And what you've told yourself thus far in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years experience on this world is a lot more negative than it is positive. In fact, when you were a child, you heard 75% more no's in your lifetime than you did yeses from ages 0 to 5. And as we go on and we grow up, we continue that same cycle of trauma to ourselves. We continue to tell ourselves, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, I'm not pretty enough, I'll never make it, this is too hard. We have so much repetition of this pattern that it is such a super simple way to begin to love ourselves by just telling ourselves some affirmations. When it comes to working one-on-one with clients, I always have them begin doing affirmations in the mirror where they're actually looking at themselves and moving on to touching parts of their body and calling in and connecting to the inside and the physical container that we live in as we do these affirmations. With a little bit of practice with these affirmations, we begin to see how many other areas are that we need to love ourselves. Things like setting time for ourselves, setting boundaries with other people, and stepping into more things that we need in our lives in order to show ourselves love. But affirmations is a beautiful, perfect, simple part to begin to love yourselves. And I super duper suggest that you do these affirmations within the first few minutes of waking up or on your road to falling asleep. Because when you do this, you enter a different brain wavelength that actually acts as a hypnosis sequence in your brain and helps you to process this information and recode the way that you currently live your life and believe about yourself. So the second thing that I want to say here is that it's time to heal the broken parts. We have them. We absolutely have them, and it's time to heal them. It's time to do the steps necessary to heal what is broken about yourself, whether that be confidence, whether that be trauma, whether that be anxiety or depression, whether that be PTSD, whether that be a toxic relationship, whatever those broken parts of yourself is, extreme insecurity, so on and so forth. You have to begin to do the work to heal those parts of you, whether that means hiring a coach or speaking with a counselor or beginning to be intimate and open with your friends about it, or buying these online systems, or signing up for that 5-day freebie. You have to begin to look inside of yourself and start healing the broken parts. The next thing that is so super awesome, so super simple, and so absolutely fabulous is to step into your creative nature. Number 3 here is arts and creativity. You're a woman, and it is in your blood to be creative. It is 100% part of your nature. And if you're sitting here saying, I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's because you've blocked yourself out from that. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the next famous artist, but it does mean with inside of you, coursing through your brains is a need to create. We create life, we create. It is at our core. And so we need to begin to step into some embodiment of giving ourselves the time to have arts and creativity in our lives. Whether that's coloring with your children or spending 10 minutes yourself, whether that's sketching something out, creating an art project or painting, whether that's gardening in your backyard or doing your makeup. You need to begin to get really creative with yourself and tap into that power of creation. Again, we create life. We sustain life. We create healthy bones and strong bones, and we do so much. Our body is so powerful. To numb out and to pretend that we don't have a creative bone in our body is absolutely out of control. And it's time for you to step into that and begin to embody some pieces of creativity in your life. 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a week will make a huge difference in your life here and your confidence. Number 4 is mindfulness and meditation. If you are not participating in a mindfulness or meditation exercise a few times a week, of course you're going to be having some issues. We run so fast in our lives. We have so many things coming at us. We have so many things going on inside of us, and we have so many things coming out of us that we never live in the present moment. We're always absorbing information of tomorrow, hoping for the next day, worried about the past, and making sure everybody's okay right now. We need to be present in our state of mind. We need to be here right now, observing everything that I'm saying instead of looking at what's on the wall behind me or looking at the numbers flash in front of your eyes. We consume, and the more that we consume, the less that we become present. And so we need to take a step away from this and make sure that our lives is giving us the space of mindfulness and meditation on, I say, a daily basis, guys. We are busy moms. We have lots of lives to live. So we need this time every single day. But commit to at least giving it to yourself 2 to 3 times a week. You don't need a 30-minute session. You can do this in 30 seconds with some deep breathing. You can do this 30 seconds 12 times a day with some deep breathing, with some visualization, with some music in the background, but you need to begin to do it. Number 5 is mindset and expansion. You gotta open your mind. You gotta open your world. If your Facebook is simply filled with your friends that you see every day, that you know everything about, your social world is not expanded. If your, social life outside of internet is filled with the same people every day, the same experiences every day, your social life is not expanded. If your family life is filled with the same routines every single day, all the time, your family life is not expanded. If your emotional state is filled with the same cycles every single day, year after year, your emotional state is not expanded. And you have to begin to dip your toes in the water and expand to so many other things. Just as simple as adding a few friends that believe in new things from you can expand your mind dramatically and bring you to so many different things. I worked with a client not too long ago that when I met her, she was a super duper atheist. Absolutely had no intention of it. She was with her kids and her husband, and that was her life, and that's all she did, and she was a super duper atheist. And as we began to simply talk about meditation, she built her life in a 3-month period of time from meditation to mindfulness to these little hacks to making sure that she was going to a Buddhist seminar every single week. And it was as simple for her as getting in touch with an old friend, adding a couple new friends on Facebook, which allowed her to see more positivity in her feed, which made her curious about this course, which made her think, oh, I could look into chakras, which had her YouTube suggest a meditation, which brought her to this, which brought her to the event center near her town, which led her to this. So these little teeny tiny areas of our lives that we can shift can bring up so much more. So decide right now to switch your stuff up a little bit and begin to lean into some expansion. I don't want to go too long on this video because I know I'll lose you guys. So we're going to move through this a little bit quicker. Number 6 is passion and purpose. It's so hard as a mom to live with passion and purpose. All of a sudden our spouse, our kids, and our homes become our passion and purpose. But we are so much more than that. And we need to live in that passion and purpose. Whether it's selling goods online or speaking or creating or your arts and creativity, whether it's making bows or taking care of the environment or this or that, you all have a passion deep within you, and you have to begin to tap back into who you are as a person and begin to live in that passion and purpose. This will increase your energy, drive, and everything so much up that as you begin to live in that, your confidence will absolutely soar through the sky. Number 7 is physicality and food. Your gut has so much to do with why you're feeling and how and why you're depleted and why you feel so bad about yourself. Not the weight in your gut, but the actual system that's happening inside of your gut. If you are not taking care of your body, you are not taking care of yourself. And so putting aside that I've tried it before, this is a New Year's resolution, I've never commit to it, this, and this. It's just time to take care of yourself a little better, to end the bad relationship that you have with food, to end the bad relationship that you have with your body, and begin to take care of your body a little bit at a time. Your body is the container that holds every single piece of you, and to pretend and to act that it's okay for us to just ignore this regularly and continue to feed it bad food and continue to not give it the proper exercise that we need, there's no wonder we feel like crap. There's no wonder why we're not living in confidence, or we're not living in embodiment, or we're not truly connected to our sexual identity, because we are not taking care of the body that holds that identity itself. And so we have to begin to lean into our physicality and food. That doesn't mean you got to work out 45 minutes a day. Hell no. That means while you're binge watching Netflix, do a couple leg lifts and allow that to build into the momentum that creates your life. It doesn't mean cutting out all junk food today, but it does mean choosing to have one piece of pizza and two, and allow yourself to feel those hunger pains and allow yourself to shift into a new way of living. Number 8 is your powerhouse self. Again, this relates right back to affirmations and loving yourself, and it ties right into your mind expansion. The more that you begin to expand, the more that you begin to feel that you are becoming a powerhouse. And the more that you begin to feel that you're becoming a powerhouse, the more that you expand here. The more that you create here, the more that you live in this true embodiment. And number 9 is, I only have 9, not 10. Sorry, guys. Number 9 is ultimately creating rituals. We just went over 8 things. 8 things that you can add into your every single day that ultimately, if you did them in their smallest portions, wouldn't take more than 30 minutes out of your day to change your entire life in a couple months period of time, but ultimately create that sense of freedom and sexual identity that you're desiring. And so we need to take these 8 different things, and we need to start creating these sacred rituals that we live on, that we depend on. We so much can make excuses here. We so much can tell ourselves. And you're probably right here saying, yes, but, and you can continue to live that way, or you can choose in the moment right now, because ultimately it is your choice to create some rituals that change your lives. I can assure you that if you follow these steps 1 through 8, giving yourself just 5 minutes a day in each area, 5 minutes a week in each area, you will begin to see your confidence and your sexual identity increase. You will begin to muddle through the weeds of the entanglement that you've created and find yourself more and more taking the mask off and leaving it there, because you have the nature, the confidence, and the identity to show up as the highest version of yourself in your life. So I hope that you take this serious. Again, I'm super excited. I'm always super duper passionate about these topics, about a lot of topics, but about these topics, because for so long I lived under that mask. I used a sexual identity to cover up all of the insecurities that I was feeling. And after having kids and after meeting the one that loved me fiercely, I had to learn exactly how to love myself and exactly how wrong I had been thinking all along and exactly how wrong I had been prioritizing all along and how many areas I was blaming that weren't the problem. And so when you begin to take it easy on yourself and at the exact same time get nitty-gritty with yourself, you can change your life literally overnight. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with as far as the rituals that you're going to create in your life to create that confidence, that sexual identity, and ultimate embodiment of who you want to be and how you want to feel. That's all I got for this one. Thanks for having me, guys.